Good morning. Welcome to Indianapolis, or Marion County, which is my home county. And I'm so happy that we are back in person today. I know we're kind of out of order today, but just changing things up a little bit. So it's good to see so many familiar faces. For those of you I don't know already, I look forward to getting to know you a little bit better. As many of you know, I started Board of Accounts where everyone starts, which I was a field examiner. I worked on state assignments, then I worked on some local governments audits for a while, and then became county supervisor, and so I was in the position where Lori and Ricky are, and so I got to know many of you through that role, and I have come to really, truly appreciate the complexities with which you deal every single day. And now I'm in a role where I am working with the GAP reporting entities. So the counties that are required to report on the GAP basis or opt to, the cities and the school corporations that are doing that. And so that world has become so much more complex for those auditors that are working with those challenges given to us by the GASB. So I have learned an even more respect for what you do each day, and I really am glad to be working in this role. I hope that we can do some good. So here's what we've started with on our team. First of all, I do think a little bit of an update where Board of Accounts is. I think we weathered the pandemic storm well to date. It's not really over. We are currently low on field examiners, but it seems every place is trying to hire right now. Maybe some of you in the room are trying to hire right now as well. We are very well aware that the pandemic's not over, and although we hope it will be soon, but for now we just continue to assess our situation, adapt as needed. I hope that you're doing much of the same. I know part of your agenda, you have an area where you'll be having some discussions on that during this conference. And while we continue to pray for and serve those that have been adversely affected the most by either losing loved ones or for those that are battling this horrible virus currently, we also are continuing to make sure we lead the way through the pandemic and demonstrate ways we can provide services and live our lives and have safeguards. State Board of Accounts is about 4 months behind in their audits right now compared to where we would like to be on our schedule, and we have implemented some plans to continue movement back towards the normal audit schedule. Normally, we would be moving field examiners to school audits around this time of year, and that has been changed. We're going to continue working with the calendar year governments, so you guys in the counties and the cities and towns. As you're aware, Indiana will have more federal dollars to expend, and that means more federal programs to audit and more governments requiring single audits. Some of them may be for the first time. So last year we performed more GAP audits than ever in recent past, and we found that the GAP audits take much longer. They were taking 4 times as long as a regulatory audit. So what we have done to try to alleviate that is work with some of our trusted contractors at CPA firms, and we have some of the federal pandemic money that can pay for audits, and so we are contracting with them to try to make sure that we stay on track and hopefully can start to gain some momentum by hiring. So with it taking 4 times as long to do a gap audit as a regulatory audit, we know that that cannot be sustained. You are also putting a lot more time and money into a gap audit as well. It's not just on our side, but on our side, we're seeing 4 times as much. So one of the things that we have started doing is we have a gap efficiency team. I am working with that team, heading it up. We have members of the team, one in the north, one in the south. Pam Barber is in the south. Mitch Wilson is in the north. They are experienced field examiners. They are familiar with gap financial statements, and they're starting to get familiar with yours, even though they may not have worked where your county is in the past. They're getting familiar with your financial statements if you're reporting on gap. And they are going to be here today out at the resource table. They will have some information for gap counties that is hot off the presses. In fact, it's still in draft form at this point, but I anticipate it will be issued in final form later today or tomorrow. I will be out there all day tomorrow as well, so that if you're reporting on the gap basis, or you think that you may go that direction, please stop in and see me. Let us get familiar with your financial statements and your situation. Learn the faces and the names so that you can reach out to us. If we are going to continue to be your liaisons to try to find efficiencies on the audit side, but also in communicating with the auditors and trying to do a lot of pre-audit work so that we're doing that work before the team actually gets on site. So for most of the gap counties, I think there were a couple that reported on the gap basis prior, but for most gap counties, we're in year 2. Most of them went to reporting on gap in 2019, and we're just now getting through the 2020 audits for financial statements. So we expect some efficiencies just from year 2. I'm sure you're finding a little bit of those too, but we want to make sure that we can get this to a point where it is much more efficient, much more streamlined, and be kind of prepared for the next things that are coming down the pike, because GASB is always writing new standards, and there are more to be implemented that are already out there. And so I know that if you're working with a compiler, we've looked at their websites. We know that they offer training on a lot of those GASBs. Some of that may be national or international training. So if you want something Indiana specific, we know that we've kind of got to bridge that gap a little bit, and we're willing to do that. So one of the things that you might look for soon is that we will be reaching out to the gap reporting entities and starting up what we're going to call the gap chat. So we will have a virtual meeting and discuss small topics and have an opportunity for questions and a little bit of conversation. We're also working with Lori and Ricky, and we understand that this conference, you're really packed full of things that you've got to get through. But like I said, we'll be at the resource table to talk with you separately. In the future, we may be able to do some things where we get the gap counties together and do some breakout training for them. We're also doing field visits, so you will see Pam and Mitch and sometimes me in the field, and we'll be stopping in. We'll try not to interrupt your schedule too much. If we have a chance, we'll schedule a time to come in and see how things are going. We may sit in on your status meetings if you're working with the CPA firm to see how just the weekly status and how that's going. We're willing to do that if you feel like that would be beneficial, and that doesn't cost you anything. We're not billing you for that. So please take advantage of myself, Pam, and Mitch. We're here to try to smooth the way for this type of reporting, because we understand that it is what's expected internationally and globally, and And so following those standards, once you've gone that direction, the expectation is you will continue to report in that manner so that the bond rating agencies and everybody knows the financials a lot more than they know the regulatory. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague and counterpart, the other Deputy State Examiner, Mike Bazimski.
Thank you, Tammy. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Indianapolis. It's great to be back live again and see so many of you here in person. As mentioned, Paul Joyce can't be here today. He will be here tomorrow to speak with you, and like Tammy and I, he always looks forward to the opportunity to speak with you. We're undergoing our peer review right now, which is kind of an audit of the auditors. Auditing standards require us to undergo that once every 3 years, and auditors from other states form a team. There's usually 8 to 10 of them, and they review our auditing policies and procedures to make sure we're doing things correctly. And, typically they're on site at our office, but this year they're virtual. And I believe that review is going to wrap up today. They started last week. So I don't ever want to say that an audit's painful. We hope we give you valuable information. I know we do during the audit process, but it is a different process when you're trying to do your regular duties to have auditors in there and reviewing your stuff. So we're kind of kindred spirits last week and this week in that regard with you. I'll share a quick story with you. Each year the state of Indiana does a state employee community campaign where they raise money for different charities throughout the state and country. And throughout the month, they have different activities that state agencies can sign up for. So there was a cornhole tournament, a tug of war, a lip sync contest. There was a basketball tournament, which our agency actually won, I'm proud to say. I wasn't a team member, but Paul recruited 4 of our younger field examiners that played some college basketball. I think at least 2 of them did. And ended up winning, all the agencies, someone said ringers, but I think all the agencies kind of went that way. But Paul and I were kind of coaching on the sideline. I don't think they listened to us, but they performed well and won. So anyway, last night, as part of this campaign, they had a kickball tournament that agencies could sign up for. And it was played out at a softball field, so I went ahead and told our coach that, put me on the roster. They had spots for 20, 10 play at a time. I thought kickball, we've got a lot of young staff. I thought surely we'll get plenty of people to sign up, and I'll go watch them and cheer them on. We ended up with about 12 or 13 signees, and so the coach tells me that I'm going to be our pitcher. So last night out at the softball field, I'm happy to report that we won that tournament as well. Played 3 games in a row. I got to the field, did about 2 minutes of stretching, kind of jogged down the foul line out towards the outfield a couple times, did some stretches. My daughter's a physical therapist, and she always tells me, you got to stretch, Dad, before you do anything like that. And obviously 2 minutes isn't enough, but the pitching really didn't get to me, but a couple times I was on first base and had to run from first to third when someone kicked one into the outfield. And boy, it was about a half-hour drive from the field to my home, and when I got home, I could hardly get out of my car. When I woke up this morning, a little bit worse even, so I walked up those steps from the ground floor today, though, so I'm trying to keep moving. But happy to report, Board of Accounts, state champions in basketball and kickball, so and raising money for a good cause as well. On a more serious note, I always want to thank you and your staff for your public service, the job you do for the taxpayers in your community, your county, especially during this pandemic. You've had to change procedures, sometimes on a dime, to continue to provide that great service. And things like all the federal money that's coming in and the guidelines that are changing on that as you go as well. So thank you for that service. I'm mostly underappreciated by the taxpayers, I think, but we know the job that you do, and we appreciate the cooperation and the partnership we have with you and all local government and getting the taxpayers' work done. So thank you for all that. Never hesitate to contact our offices. Ricky and Lori are subject matter experts with all that is county. Whether you email them, call them on the phone, the fairly new Teams meetings that we all enjoy, I think, and the occasional letter that we still get in the office. So, don't hesitate to contact them. When our examiners are on site, if they're not able to answer your question, and our newer field examiners oftentimes won't be able to, or maybe they shouldn't, but all of them should be able to get that question up the chain and get it to the appropriate person at our agency to assist you. Okay, one thing for those of you that were at the AIC conference last month, I believe, about a year ago, Board of Accounts started accepting ACH payments. You as the county get our audit invoice for all the audits we perform for you and for all the taxing units in your county. And so that is the preferred method of payment. No longer writing any checks, just go through that ACH process. And I know we've gotten the information out with the account information, and that's usually included with the invoice. I think almost all counties are using ACH. There might be a few that we're still getting checks from. So if you have a question, don't hesitate to call Juanita or Caroline in my office or our office, and they'll be able to answer your questions. If not, they'll give it to me and I'll help you out, just so we get everyone on that. And it's amazing, in just the year that we've had ACH, I would say, probably 90% of our payments are being made through that method, which was very helpful during the pandemic when we didn't have people in the office every day to, receipt in those checks. And for a while, even the treasurer's office was just open 2 days a week for deposits. So yeah, let's try to get everyone on that. We certainly appreciate your cooperation with that. As always, I want to thank everyone that helps make this conference and other conferences a success. Definitely Ricky and Lori from my office. Whether we're live here, the virtual ones they've done, the hybrids, like I guess this is kind of a hybrid, they're all a success, and they're doing the planning for this in addition to their other job duties. So thank you to them. Thank you to David Bodorf and his staff at the AIC. Great partners of us and great partners of yours as well. Thank you to Vicki Urbanik, your president of the association, and the other officers for their planning. So in closing, just thank you again for your public service, the partnership with our agency that gets all this work done. Make sure, you network, get to know your fellow auditors. And I hope you have a great conference, and thank you again. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Wes Bennett, a good friend of ours from the Dlgf, commissioner. Wes had a basketball team that our team actually beat along the way for the championship. But I was telling him, Wes, maybe you didn't hear it. Our team, which I participated on last night, won the kickball championship, and I didn't see your team there. So,
Mike, your time's up.
Without further ado, Wes Bennett.
Your time's up. You're rubbing that in for Paul, aren't you? Paul told you to do that, didn't he?
He speaks tomorrow.
Yeah, I get an email from Paul Joyce last night at 10 o'clock with the picture of the winning kickball team. So congratulations to the State Board of Accounts for their basketball championships. At least we kept it within, OMB and all that sort of stuff. So congratulations. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much. I apologize for being late this morning. Vicki, how are you?
Very good.
You're looking good. So is everybody else here. Isn't it great to be here? Isn't it great to be here? This is what a room of more than 10 looks like, huh? So that's nice. And how many do we have online? Do we know? Yeah, online. Whatever. 40? Great turnout. It's great to be here. It's great to be back meeting with you. These things started about 6 months ago. The townships, cities and towns, counties, AI. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, were at AIC a month ago, and so it's great to be here. So welcome. Thanks for inviting me to be here. President Urbanek, congratulations on an outstanding year of leadership with the association. This is, I think this is my fourth president. You're my fourth president, maybe. So you continue the long line of strong leadership in this association, and I look forward to your continued leadership, and then also those that are following you. So thank you for all you're doing, and thank you for the executive team and the executive leadership for all that you do. Just a few things about Dlgf, what's been going on, and then I'm going to step aside and introduce Jackie Clements from AIC. So as you know, that our budget season is about to wrap up, and so we're excited to get that process through the finish line. We want to thank you for all your diligent efforts. I will tell you that we are weeks, not days, but weeks ahead of where we were last year, and last year we were days ahead of where we were the year before. So not only is our technology that we're improving helping us, but it's helping you, and it's also really probably most importantly is it's what you're doing at the local level it's helping everyone get to the finish line and get it done accurately and on time. So thank you for that. So let's see, what else? Our legislative agenda is going to get pushed out here shortly. It's been approved by the governor's office. We have a lot of technical things to talk about. We're going to be getting in front of AIC. We're going to get in front of you and the Assessors Association and the other many stakeholders that we have over the course of the next 30 to 60 days and pushing out our legislative agenda. And we're excited about that. So it's going to be a fast, furious legislative session coming up. As you know, it's a short session. But there's going to be a lot on everybody's plates. You're going to hear a lot about personal property. You're also going to hear more about assessments. So fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a wild ride. So you're going to be hearing about our agenda here shortly. Good news on a staffing standpoint. We have gotten approval to increase our staffing levels at Dlgf. I've been fighting for that for the last 4 years. In addition to being able to backfill some positions. So I think over the course of, in fact, I know over the course of the next 30 to 45 days, you're going to be seeing, hearing of maybe 10 or 11 new faces at Dlgf. So we're certainly excited about that. We're going to be filling positions in budget, assessment, IS, backfilling some data positions as well. So we're excited about that. This thing keeps changing on me here. So mentioned that. I've over the course of the last 90 days, I've spoken with your executive leadership and as well as the assessor's executive leadership, and I'm going to form, and they've agreed to meet as a triad group to over the course of the once every quarter to talk about policy, to talk about operations, to talk about legislation, anything that is on your mind that you push to them. We're going to sit down and talk about every quarter as a triad team, similar to what we do with State Board of Accounts and the auditors and Auditor Klutz's office and Dlgf. So we're going to translate that to the assessors and the Auditors Association along with Dlgf. So we're going to start that here in the next month or so. So thanks to the leadership again, Vicki. You and your assessors colleagues for taking that on. So other than that, that's really all I have. Again, it's really great to see you all here. Great turnout. Thank you for all that you do, and especially for how well you do it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the esteemed one of your former colleagues, Jackie Clements. I got to say, Jackie, I've come very close to you over the last 4 years, and we appreciate our collaboration, appreciate our partnership. And thank you for all you do, too. Thank you. You're welcome. Jackie Clements, everyone.
Okay, Ricky, is it looking okay? Okay. Good morning and welcome. I am not David Bodoff that's on your agenda today. David has taken some long-deserved vacation time. He is in Yosemite Park, where he can't even come to us virtually because there's no internet service there. So, which we at the office are ecstatic because David works 24/7 for all of us. So I am trying to fill some pretty big shoes here this morning. I want to start with announcing something. We have a special day today. Today is State Auditor Klutz's birthday. So if we could sing happy birthday to her. Ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Tara. Happy birthday to you. You know, it's just like any other mother, Tara. You got to embarrass your children once in a while. So I have a few things I want to bring up to you this morning. First of all, let me say we apologize for the problems with the fact book this year. Somehow our fact books got to Evansville Post Office and they sat there for 6 weeks before we found them. They tell us they're in the mail, but they still haven't hit anyone's door. It is out there electronically. If you as an auditor haven't received information where you can find the fact book electronically, please contact Elizabeth Mallers. She'll get that link to you so you have information. And again, we apologize. All the hard work that you do to make this book, a good resource at budget time, unfortunately, to no fault of our own, is sitting somewhere still in the U.S. Post Office. A few announcements I want to make. We have some upcoming sessions with the AIC. Our next institute class is legislative literacy. It's going to be held at the Historical Society downtown on Tuesday, November 16th, which is Org Day. We'll hold it from 9 to noon, serve lunch, and then you'll have time to go visit your legislators. Representative Kirchhoff will be there, along with some other speakers, and of course Ryan and Dustin from our office. We encourage all of you to attend. On the 29th of November, back to back here, here in this building, down in the Clearwater Ballroom, we'll hold an institute class from 1 to 4, and it will be on Indiana's tax and business climate. It's going to be a lot of discussion on lit revenues, different business personal property, and how all of that is impacting our business climate here in Indiana, which then obviously impacts our assessed values and our taxes. So Very informative. I encourage all of you, if you are coming to the Commissioners Conference, to come early and take that class from 1 to 4 on Monday before they start on Tuesday, the 29th. That's Monday, right? Then our Ledge Conference is coming up in January. It has been established for January 25th and 26th. We'll be holding it at the Hyatt downtown, the Hyatt Regency downtown. We've moved back over there because there's just a little bit more room and we want to keep spread out as possible. Between now and then, encourage your legislators to stop in for lunch. They're all invited, but if they know you're going to be there, they will take more time and more effort to get there if they know they can see you when they come. As Wes said, there are a couple of things coming up that are extremely important to local government. There is going to be some possible proposed legislation concerning lit Stabilization Fund. Currently, the state holds 15% of our lit revenues. There is going to be, we are discussing asking for legislation to move that to 12%. That sends out about $1 billion to local units of government. I know several of the counties this year had huge losses in revenue, in their lit revenues. For several different factors. Wasn't just the pandemic, because a lot of them went up, but there were several factors involved. If that's down to 12%, that could have, streamlined a little bit of that to where it wasn't quite so detrimental. The other discussion that's going to be taking place is discussion on the means testing for senior citizen, the age 65 deduction, and their assessed values. So that's going to be something that's a topic of discussion. And then, of course, business personal property. And we are encouraging you to talk to your legislators about the impact that business personal property loss would be to your county. We do have some counties where almost 50% of their assessed value is personal property and assessed value. So if they lose that, or if they set that ceiling to where a vast majority of it goes away, obviously our tax rates are going to go up and our circuit breaker loss is going to go up. So go back and look at your county and see how much business personal property is out there, and talk to your legislators about how important it is to keep that in and find a different way to credit those businesses except at assessed value that's going to impact all of our other property owners. The last thing I want to talk about is our officers, the officers that from your association that sit on our board. And I'm not going to do a David thing and forget somebody. So I'm going to ask, I think I know all of you, but I'm going to ask everyone that sits on the AIC board, whether it be the education committee, the executive board, or just our regular board, to please stand up and let the group know the efforts that you put in at the AIC on their behalf. Nancy, you too, Vicki, Patty Ball just walked out the door, Julie, and Jennifer Flater someplace. I know she's on it too. She's on the education committee. I enjoy so much coming to this conference. All of you are some of you are really long-time friends. Some of you are new friends. And that is why, I call this job that I have with the Association of Indiana Counties my retirement hobby, because that's what it is to me. The ability to get out, see all of my friends, keep those camaraderies going, and still be able to assist you in many different ways of education, training, and lobbying that we do at the State House for you. So thank you for all you do. Been in your shoes, love the shoes that you're in. Keep doing the good job, and I enjoy seeing you over the conference. Thanks.
Next, we're going to hear from Vicki Urbanek, who is your president of your association. So, Vicki. Thank you, Lauren. Well, hello, county auditors and deputies. Welcome to the Fall Indiana County Auditors Conference. We are so thrilled that you could join us this week, whether you're here in person or online. We're just so happy that you could be here. Many of us have been looking forward to this event for, more than a year. So we have a lot of good programming planned this week, and we want to thank all of the speakers for taking the time to train us in order to help us improve our services to the taxpayers. We want to thank all the vendors who are joining us this week. We especially want to thank the State Board of Accounts, and in particular, Lori and Ricky, for planning what promises to be a few days of really good education for all of us. Now let me turn to some association matters. I'd like to introduce to all of you the officers of the association. So when I call your name, stand up and give a wave so everyone knows who you are. We have, not here in the room, but she is somewhere here, President-elect Jennifer Flater, Vice President Debbie Stevens, Treasurer Christina Swiver, Secretary Rachel Ostrike, and advising past President Julie Fox. Let's give them all a round of applause. They are a great group of women to work with, and I have been so honored to serve on the board with them. I'd also like to recognize the past presidents who are here with us of the association. In addition to Julie Fox, this year's past president, we have our 2019 president, Davies County Auditor Patty Ball. Stand up. Thank you. And going all the way back to 2006, we have Tippecanoe County Auditor Bob Platanga. Okay. Now, some more association business. When you registered, you should have received a name badge with a number on your badge. In case you don't know what this is all about, over the course of the next few days, as you're walking through conference, whether it's the vendor hall or over lunch or whatever, if you find the other person who has your number, go up to that person, and then the two of you can come to the registration table, and if it's staffed, you will both get a little treat. Now, the purpose of this matching game is not to give you guys candy bars, believe it or not. It's for you to go up and introduce yourself to somebody that maybe you've not met before, someone from maybe another part of the state. Ask them about their county, ask them about what they do. You might find a new friend. You're going to find maybe some interesting stories, and you can share some of your experiences. So hopefully you'll have some fun with that. I'd also like to introduce our district vice presidents. So when I call your name, stand up so all the auditors can know who their district vice president is. From the Northwest, we have Gail Rogers. Northeast, we have Kim Myers. East Central, Jennifer Andel. I'm sorry, that was West Central. East Central, Robin Mills. Southwest, Pam Goffnet, and Southeast, Amy Hochstrasser. So if you don't know your district vice president, go up to them sometime during the conference. And if you are interested in serving as district VP, let them know. On Friday at our business meeting, we will be electing the new officers, including the district VPs. And so take this time to get to know them. And if you want to step up, we could make the process go a lot faster on Friday. Our goal is to have a whole slate of officers decided on Friday at our business meeting. Which brings me to the last point. We hope all of you will be able to stay for our association business meeting. It will follow the State Board of Accounts Q&A session. We have some important items to address at our business meeting. And before we get to the business meeting, we do have some after-hour activities that I hope all of you will have some fun with. Tonight is game night, and then tomorrow is our dinner dance and all-important costume contest. So hopefully all of you will be there and enjoy. So in closing, let's have a great week. We have lots of good education planned, lots of fun activities, have fun networking with each other and with state officials and with the vendors. And now, without further ado, it gives me great pleasure. Yes, you most certainly may, Jackie.
I apologize, but I wrote all the things down David wanted me to talk about and forgot the thing that I wanted to say, which is very important to me. And I just want to say, for those of you who attended the AIC annual conference this year and saw our AIC's Got Talent, it was a wonderful evening, and the county auditors were represented so well. I personally want to thank publicly Vicki Urbanik, Amy Hostrasser, and Greg Townsend for participating in it. It was the most wonderful event and felt so good. And I'm telling you, they did you proud. They did you really proud. So I just wanted to say that publicly. Thank you. And now I'm out.
Thank you, Jackie. I thought you were going to have us re-perform the skits. I think all of us are ready to do it. Oh, you can improvise. Jackie did fantastic. Everyone who was there, didn't she do great? Yes, she did. Okay, now without further ado, I am honored to present to you our next speaker, Auditor of State Tara Klutch. She's no stranger to us or to the Auditor's Office, and as Jackie mentioned, this is her special day. So on the count of 3, let's give a robust, vibrant, jubilant happy birthday wish to, on the count of 3, say, happy birthday, Auditor Tara. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday, Auditor Tara.
I'm going to make Mike stay up here. He's trying to leave, but he was talking a lot of smack earlier, and I could take the first time. But when he got up and talked when Wes got up here, I can't take it anymore. Who doesn't let their auditor win in games? You tell me. Who doesn't want to let their auditor win? I know we didn't even compete because we didn't want to have to deal with our State Board of Accounts. All right, you can leave now. All right, well, thank you for all the birthday wishes. It is very, very sweet, and I feel the love, so I love being here. And I also love it when it's at Keystone and Indy. Even when I was in Fort Wayne, this was always the best place. And so now it's just a little closer, but it's still my favorite. I want to thank the State Board of Accounts for inviting me to, I'm still part of the welcome a little bit, be part of this, but I want to make sure I remember to introduce my team this time that came with me. Emily Boson, if you want to stand up there. She's the new Jared Bond, if you remember Jared Bond. So she came from the Department of Revenue, and before that she was with the BMV, and she is also expecting a little bun in the oven. So depending on when we see her next time, we'll just have to see where she's at in that process. And that's what you get for embarrassing me. Okay. Mark Hawkins is our legislative director, and he's taking over for Kendra, who now works for the State Board of Accounts. And then last but not least, Kim Diller, she's going to give you the important stuff. Who's not with us today, I'm sure you notice, is Janie, your favorite. We know this. We know she's your favorite. Oh, by the way, doesn't it sting for the people online that have to look up my nose the whole time? I mean, I almost wanted to block the camera, and I thought, no, that's not fair. But I tried to do some cleansing, and we'll see what happens. So Janie gave me a corny joke to tell in her absence. She's at a funeral today, okay? But it's so embarrassing that I'm going to save it till the end, and I'm going to step to the side. And I was the only one who was willing to do it. But she's great. She came up with a good one this year. I just want to start with, I believe, of course, I'm a little biased, but I believe the county auditor's position is one of the most important. I might start crying. I just saw the people from Allen County. Sorry about that. Oh, I hate that. Okay. Sorry. Oh. So the county auditor position is the most important. So I'm so sorry I get choked up right now. I'm going to get over this real quick. Okay, so not only do you guys do the payroll and the budgets and pay all the bills for the county, which is what the state does too, you also calculate all the tax bills for all the owners of property in your county, which is no easy task. And then you also distribute most of the revenue that every tax unit in your county uses to operate. So if you can't get your head wrapped around how important your job is to the livelihood of all of your residents, I'm here to remind you, it is so important. And it's such a challenging job. And that's what makes it so rewarding. And so I would just say that You got to take it seriously knowing how important it is, but have the confidence to continue to ask questions knowing you will never know it all. And so with that, I'm going to go into a little bit of some of the important things that you have to do. Let's see. At the AIC, there were probably about 20 to 25 auditors, and I was able to just give an overview of the property tax process. And that seemed really well received, so I'm just going to do that again while we're here. It's kind of like a start from 1/1/21 to December 31st, 2022. But before I get into that, the other things that we're going to talk about include Indiana Transparency Portal. We've added some cool local government stuff to that. And we have, I want to talk about the automatic taxpayer refund coming everybody's way next year. Local government fund accounting and what makes it so special. And then net assessed values and what we might expect. Okay, so to start with, I want to talk about the property tax process. And I'm just going to give a disclaimer. This is going to be a very generalized process, okay? The generalized process is not simple. But if I start adding all of the exceptions to this speech, you will feel like you've earned a doctorate in property tax. And I think that should be a thing, by the way. So you start at 1/1, and the county or township assessor is responsible for assessing all the property in your county. And that takes a long time. Then when she or he is done with it, they turn it over to the county auditor. You receive and balance those gross assessed values, as we like to call them, in your tax system. Then you apply all of the deductions that you have, that you know of so far. It's still the middle of 2021. You apply abatements and exemptions, and then you calculate 2021 net assessed values. Those are words you're familiar with. And then you certify them to the Dlgf. And by this time, everybody should be certified to the Dlgf. I think I heard as of yesterday, everybody is certified, so congratulations. Yesterday, I said they can't come to this if they're not certified. And so the Dlgf, we were in a meeting yesterday, and Lori and Ricky can confirm, they said, well, we need to back up that conference. And I said, oh, no, it's going to be fine. And so now we're all certified. And so now the Dlgf is going to take those values, and they're going to kind of sit on them for a little hot minute, while you guys all are adopting budgets and levies, working with your councils, and as also are the schools, the towns, the cities, and all the other governmental units are going through the budget process right now, adopting the amount of property tax that they think they're going to need next year for their budget. And so the Dlgf will then, after everybody adopts their budgets, they take the values that you gave them, and then the levies and budgets that were adopted by your counties, and they do this algebra equation, which I like algebra, it's a problem solving, and they come up with a tax rate. But if you have the tax rate and you have the assessed value, you could come up with the levy. The calculation is interesting. It's basically the assessed value divided by 100, divided by the levy, or vice versa. I have no idea. I could be telling you wrong, but that equals the tax rate, okay? You can kind of tell if you've messed up the numerator and denominator, because when you look at your rate, you kind of know right away if you've got it wrong or right. But the thing you need to know is you can figure it out. Okay, so then you get these rates. Now, you can load them into your tax system and start preparing what we call as an abstract. In the accounting world, I like to relate this to a balance sheet. Your abstract is at a point in time, all of the assessed values that we just certified to the Dlgf, plus the levies and the levies that we certified at budget time, and it's only that way one time until you get a correction turned in from your assessor. And so, which is obviously immediately, but so that's what balancing the abstract. And then you send it to the auditor of state, but I'm just gonna let you know, I don't think this has changed, but legally we don't have to approve it. We just kind of do it because we wanna have your back, because there are 92 of you out there trying to do this abstract. And I never wanted to be the first, but somebody's got to be the first. But we can start figuring out if there's going to be some issues that are statewide, or if you have different issues than another county, we can kind of point that out before you accidentally send wrong tax bills out to everybody in your county. So you should want to go through this process with us as well. So at that point, the abstract is balanced and approved. The county auditor will, I said, apply all the corrections, additions, and refunds to the assessed values or deductions. So from the time that you've certified values, you've been getting corrections from the assessor. You've been having people apply for deductions through the end of the year. So you're kind of holding all of that, or you're able to process it. But once the abstract is approved, all of those things can be applied to the tax bill so that the tax bill is correct before we mail it to the taxpayer. You send the file to the county treasurer. The county treasurer prints it, mails them. They collect on all the property tax bills. They balance to the bank, which is important. And then they certify collections to the county auditor by tax district via the 49TC. At that point, tax bills are generally due in May and November. The first settlement comes up, it's June. This is the easy settlement. You basically take everything you've collected from the 49TC and pass it out. You're allowed to deduct refunds if you want to from that. And then come December, that is the hard settlement, I think. I like to call that, if the abstract was the balance sheet, I like to call December settlement the income statement because it finalizes the entire process. You start with the abstract, you then input all of your corrections, additions, refunds, and changes, and then you take your tax system and you subtract what's still outstanding as far as taxes owed. And you back that out, and then you back out what was distributed in June, and you should arrive at the cash left, the cash collected for taxes that the treasurer set on the 49TC. So it's kind of like a backwards way to arrive at what was collected. And that's where the puzzle fits together, and then that's your income statement. So that's all the ins and the outs for the 21 pay 22 cycle. All right. Again, that was a general overview, a lot of nuances I did not talk about, didn't talk about TIF and all the other fun stuff that comes with property taxes. So if you have any questions, ask Kim. She's coming up later. So about our new Indiana Transparency portal feature, Emily, I mentioned her earlier, she is the liaison for the Transparency portal. It's there to help you and me not have to take so many questions from taxpayers or other governmental units. If we can point you to the Transparency portal to get your answers, that's going to be easier for us. We've recently added a feature that shows how much revenue the state passes out to each county and city and town within the county. Like you can go to your county and then you could click a city and it'll show you how much MVH tax, cigarette tax, ABC alcohol tax, and income tax. I probably already said that, but it's kind of a neat feature that flows through our office because we pass out a lot of the revenue to you before you pass it out to the others in your county. All right, the automated taxpayer refund. Okay, so unexpectedly, the state got a lot of extra revenue. And I don't mean grant revenue. I mean people sat at home during the pandemic and gambled online and bought a lot of things. So our sales tax really went up. So we anticipated, like we reevaluated the revenue in April, but we even went and got a lot more money than that. And then we didn't spend as much as we thought we were gonna spend, so we ended up with like $3.9 billion. And this is interesting because in 2004, the state of Indiana issued an automatic taxpayer refund. And then 4 times after that, they changed the law so that would never happen again. I'm saying that facetiously, but they kept saying, well, you should do this before you give an automatic taxpayer refund, and do this. And so all of that was in place this year. So we got $3.9 billion. We set aside 12.5% of next year's budget in our reserve. So we replenished our reserve. We put some more to the Stabilization Fund for retirement. And we still had $1.1 billion left that we have to transfer to an excess reserve fund, which will be split between more teacher retirement funding and an automatic taxpayer refund. That's $545 million that we will be figuring out how to get to you and everybody in the state of Indiana that pay taxes this year, either a credit on their bill or a check. I know Department of Revenue is working through the process of how to get that figured out with the current law as written. That's right. It is a good spot to be in. It is a good spot to be in. And I'm glad we're giving it back. I mean, if we can't spend it, we sure don't need to be holding it. Income taxpayers. So, oddly enough, the state collects all the income tax for locals and ourselves, and we pass you the income tax. At the local level, you collect all the property tax, and then you give us any that's due to us. So we kind of trade there. If you get too much property tax, we'll take a refund. No. All right. So seriously though, the system I just described means you really won't ever have a lot of extra property tax, because we just did like a zero-sum game. Like, this is the levy you adopted, this was the tax rate you have. You can't collect a lot. Income tax is way different. We have no idea how much income tax the state of Indiana is going to get every year, because it depends on the economy and it depends on the income of the employees. So that's why we're able to do this, because we can't know. All right, I did like knowing. The other thing I want to talk about is how lucky we are to do governmental fund accounting. They tried to take this out of the CPA exam recently, and I thought that was wrong, because there's tons of governments in the United States of America, and we all have to do government fund accounting. So what makes government fund accounting so special is, again, we're the only ones who get to use it. The concept that is, if you have money raised for a general purpose, then it can go in the general fund and be used for any general legal purpose. But other money is raised and passed by your legal or executive or fiscal body, fiscal body, for specific purposes. And that money can only be used for those specific purposes, and so it cannot be commingled with the general fund money. For example, you'll have a reassessment fund or a Cume Bridge fund. Those are property taxes, but sometimes you have income tax that is also raised for a specific purpose, which has to be in a separate fund. That they did away with a lot of those specifics with income tax, and some of them trickle back now. But that is what makes us, government, special. And so, for example, on your Form 22, you get that revenue reported to you by fund, so that you know exactly where to deposit that fund. Or that money. And so during my newly elected training, I had Bruce Hartman, who was like the Tammy and the Ricky and the Lori, who basically said, like, yelled at us. Like, I was scared. He said, you never, ever, ever, ever transfer money from one fund to another. Now, I know that there can be, unless you have an exception. Well, back then, which was back then, I'm 45 now, and I started in my 20s, there were hardly any exceptions. Now there are a lot of exceptions, but the rule still holds. Unless there is an express exception in the law for you to transfer money from one fund to another, you should not do it. And so I just wanted to re-say that, because I'm still scarred from it, and I think we all should share in that scarring. Tammy got up here and talked a little bit about the gap reporting. How many of you are going to have to report, or know that you're going to have to report, because you got CARES money or opera money? You're going to have to report on gap next year. And if you don't know, you need to find out, because when I was at AIC, I heard Paul Joyce say, and he's going to be here tomorrow, that if they can pay for auditors to come and audit your financial statements with grant money, you can pay for finance people and accountants to help you assemble those financial statements if you are having to get a gap audit for the first time based upon the grant money you received. And so it only makes sense. He did agree, but I think you just got to make sure that you haven't had to do one before, and that you charge the difference of what you would normally pay for your regulatory audit versus your gap audit. But I think that's really important, because it is going to be very complicated. They're 4 months behind. It's going to put us behind too. It's a lot of work. It's not hard to do a gap financial statement. You're basically just planning and documenting expenses you've already incurred but haven't paid for. And the same thing with revenue you've earned but not received, and vice versa. And so you definitely can do it if you can do property tax. It's not that. It's a time issue and it's a newness issue. But I just want to say, if they can use grant money, you can too. for specifically increased cost for receiving the grant money. All right, the last thing I want to talk to you about before I have to do the joke is the net assessed values. A lot of you certified them, and I'm assuming that they're a little higher than they were last time. I've seen a lot of nods, and I think after that, they're even going to be higher. Next year, I think they're going to be higher. And so I think we need to talk about what we all should be expecting when those tax bills are calculated next year. Higher net AVs mean lower tax rates, mean you're going to collect more before you hit a circuit breaker cap. So for those counties that have a lot of properties that are hitting that cap, those taxpayers are going to see an increase. You know, the 1%, 2%, and 3% we were talking about, that's 1%, 2%, and 3% of your assessed value. When that assessed values goes up, those taxes are going to go up. If you are not at the caps, you're a taxpayer who is not at the caps, and a lot of your residents are not at the caps, the rate is going to lower so that the tax is roughly the same that they've been paying over the years. So it's kind of like a teeter-totter, you know, the higher assessed value, the lower the rate. The lower the assessed value, the higher the rate. And so this microphone was just my levy. So you see the levy stayed the same. The caps are what is going to be the kicker. So I think we just got to be ready for those phone calls and also be able to explain to the taxpayers. I'm happy that when they passed the circuit breaker caps in 2007 for 2008 and 9, they never anticipated the huge drop in assessed values that hit us with the market crash in 8 or 9, and then a lot of our collections lowered. So this time they're going to go up. I do anticipate that the legislators will feel pressure to do something about the increases because we have seen a lot of increases in assessed value, a lot of double-digit increases. So I just think we need to be prepared on what our options are if, you know, they say, well, it's not okay if a tax bill goes up 30%. I'm not saying it's okay or it's not okay. I just think we need to be prepared for what we believe is fair and some options if, in fact, the legislature wants to do something about that. And you already talked about business personal property. I think I keep hearing that coming. You just need to say, hey, so you guys had a big surplus and you want to cut our tax? I mean, you know, I think that's a good thing to say to the legislators too. I think they're going to try to replace it with property tax replacement like they've done in the past for some of the counties that are significantly relying on business personal property tax. But I just think you need to know how it impacts your county and be very involved with the legislative process coming up this session. All right, so before I turn it over to Kim, I'm going to do this joke. Okay, I'm going to step aside. All right. Can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me now? All right, so this is from Janie. What song do you sing while you are preparing your turkey for Thanksgiving? Anybody? It's all about the bass, about the bass, about the bass. No gravy,